Evening, everyone. This is Camille Alberti, and we are about to begin our regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting of Wednesday, July 8th, 2020, and the time is now 7:03 p.m. We'll get started right away with a review of the minutes from our last meeting, which was held on June 10th, 2020. Do any of my Board of Finance members have any questions, comments, or concerns with the minutes that were forwarded to us? Any questions, comments, or concerns from the Board of Finance members? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
I'll move to approve the East Lyme Board of Finance regular meeting minutes of Wednesday, June 10, 2020.
Thank you, Ann Santoro. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Ann Chicello. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Great, motion carries 600. Moving right along to our next agenda item, reports. We will first hear from members of the Board of Education. And we'll start with Jeff.
Sure, happy to give a quick update. So we have been fully engrossed the last 2 weeks on reopening of schools. The state released last Monday their final page reopening guidelines and requirements. So it's a mix of both requirements and things we have to do and guidelines that help kind of support us. So we have a full reopening district plan that is due back to the state by July 24th. Very quick timeline, and we are heavily involved in getting that together. We have 5 district subcommittees that are working on all the core areas. A communications committee, an instructional planning committee, a social and emotional committee to support kids and families coming back, a logistics committee, and an operations committee. So all of those committees are feverishly engaging in activities. We've got about 150 staff members across the district that are working on this, over the course of the next couple of weeks, really 2 weeks that are left. And we're going to have that plan together and back to the state, approved by the Board of Education, as well as out to our parent community. And that's been really the bane of a lot of our work right now. And also in the midst of hiring a new high school principal. So we just finished our second round of interviews about an hour ago on that. So we're still in the process there. That's really probably the gist of the Board of Ed's update and my update for this evening. That's been the work.
Okay, that's great, Jeff. I just have one question for you, if I may. I am wondering how the preparations are going for the school opening in the fall. And you anticipate any future appropriation requests from this Board of Finance to cover COVID-19 expenses that we didn't budget for?
At the current moment, no, Camille. What we have already allocated, remember that CARES Act money that we had talked about back in the budget process, about $172,000. We just yesterday, Central Office, we kind of allocated where we could put that funding towards. And we're also working with Anna about FEMA money and trying to capture some dollars there. So we are in the process of trying to capture everything that we spend that's COVID related, trying to get some reimbursement. We're not in that process. That will depend on what happens with reopening and some of these guidelines if they come to fruition. We're still in a waiting pattern for a little while longer.
I'm sorry, still in a what pattern?
Still in a waiting pattern for a little while longer as it pertains to if there's going to be any heavier expenses as it pertains to staffing or additional staffing. Like for instance, we found out, we thought originally we would need bus monitors, on every bus and have to have 20 more buses. None of that is in play right now, so that's a good thing. But things could change of COVID related illnesses increases, like many other states have. We could be seeing some other additional requirements that we have or mandates that are put upon us. But right now, no additional costs that we know of.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Do any other board members have any questions for Jeff this evening?
I have one, Camille.
Yes, John?
Jeff, with this COVID issue and busing kids to school, do you think the parents are going to be more involved in taking their kids to school, which means the busing won't be used as much?
John, we're going to be sending out a survey to parents asking two questions. One, do you plan on sending your child on the bus? And number two, do you plan on sending your child to school or engaging in the option of remote learning for the start of the year? They have that option in the plan, the state plan. So regarding the busing, the issue at hand, we can ask and we can get information, and we do anticipate more parents are probably going to drive their kids, but we still have legislation that states that at any time we have to turn around and go pick up a student with a bus and bring them to school. We're legally obligated. So if a parent 1 week says, you know what, I'm all set for the next month or the year, and they lose their job or their car breaks down, and we are obligated to now provide transportation to school. So that's what we're up against. But we are going to ask the question, and hopefully that will allow us the ability to space more kids out on the buses. We're not planning on cutting any buses, if that was kind of your question.
Thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Jeff. So you'd mentioned the $171,000 amount from CARES that goes directly to the school, to the district, which is great. So at this point, what is that best use of that? What has been the most pressing, need for that?
Right now, it's special education services and staffing. So especially with kids coming back into district, some supports there. And also, remember we talked about during the budget process, I think we brought it up with Flanders School, the need to probably have to hire another special education teacher over there because of the caseload numbers. So the CARES Act money, some of that is going to be for that purpose there, but it's all special ed related at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Anna Johnson.
I just had a message from Mariana Stevens. She said she's in the waiting room and you need to let her in.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Looks like we have a couple people in the waiting room that I'll invite in. Okay, great. Okay. So if there's no further questions for Jeff, we can move on. And tonight we'll hear a brief report from the Deputy First Selectman, Kevin Siri.
Brief? I have 3 pages here, Camille. And Jeff, I noticed Jeff and I can both attest to the fact that Zoom meetings make it inappropriately look as if our hairlines are receding too.
I've been cutting my hair, Kevin, so I just kept doing it now, so it's easy.
Yeah, I know. Okay, just I'll try really briefly. Town Hall opened yesterday. Doors are not locked anymore. So far, it's been very good. It's been moving very well. As you'd expect this time of year, people coming in and paying taxes. But so far, no problems with social distancing. No problems with people wearing masks. We are putting up a sign on the doors indicating if you're under quarantine, please do not enter. Because I was talking to a gentleman today and he said, oh yeah, we just got back from Florida yesterday. I wanted to get my taxes paid. And I had to say, you need to leave because obviously he's not supposed to be there. He should be self-quarantining. But that's it. One more thing on Town Hall, the tax abatement or that 90-day period people could have asked for a 90-day window not to pay their taxes. Only 24 taxpayers, a mix of both businesses and individuals, applied for that. So response to that, I think we thought so. I guess most people fear the tax. We got things going on in town. If you're on either access road, the front or the back of the middle school, you'll notice a lot of construction work. The one on the access road that leads you in by the community center and so forth, they're installing gas lines there. We're going to run up Society to Riverview and Roxbury to the prison. Again, that's a state cost. The state got it right away from us, so there really was no, approval of any funds because it's a state project. It's not costing the town anything. It's undetermined right now, if once it's all said and done, whether people will be able to tie into that. That's not been decided yet. And there,
Did we lose Kevin?
Yes.
Wasn't sure if it was just me or not.
Yeah, we lost him.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
he'll probably try to come back in. So in the interest of time, why don't we move on to the finance director, and we can circle back with Kevin if he gets back on with us. How does that sound? Okay,
Oh,
great. So with that, Anna Johnson can give us the report on finances.
Good evening. So the reports that were sent to you are draft reports at this point in time. For the next 60 days, we will be receiving accounts receivables and making payables that will be charged to this June 30th, 2020 fiscal year. At this point, after reviewing how the reports are at this point, I still expect that we will be looking at an additional 950, 970, 970,000 add to our unassigned fund balance. I do believe that we have one more payment that we'll be receiving. And then, of course, the other big receivable will be the new firefighter subsidy from the Ambulance Association. And those are just the comments that I wanted to make this evening. If anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions for Anna this evening on the reports that we received? Any questions at all? Okay, Anna, I just have a couple of questions. So the ambulance subsidy that you just referred to, that was the $107,000 that you expect
Yes. Yes,
you expect to record that in this fiscal year end, 6/30.
right, there'll be a receivable.
Okay. I mean, overall, these numbers look pretty good. I'm pleasantly surprised with the overages and building permits, conveyance taxes, zoning fees look good. Zoning fees are actually quite a bit over what was budgeted, and in the last month it went up $20,000. So what's been happening with the town hall closed? Is that like one big project or lots of little projects?
I would say with that large of an increase that it had to do with a large permit fee.
One large permit fee, okay. And just one other comment / question with the tuition, like the Salem tuition. So this has been a wildly vacillating number. So a couple of months ago, we anticipated $385,000 that we would be short, and last month I think we anticipated almost $900,000 that we would be short. And now on this June 30th report, we're showing we'll be $625,000. So I guess one, is that number pretty final? And two, did we have issues with Salem trying to negotiate payment with the schools being closed?
Okay, you know what? Since Mariana is on the meeting, it would be more appropriate for her to answer that question.
So I'm not sure what report you're looking at, Camille, but Anna, we just got a check-in for the final payment from Salem. So no, Camille, they did not try to get a credit. They're paying what they have been paying all along based on their enrollment. And there's one more payment that we just received in the mail for June. So Anna, you'll be getting that sometime this week. So that's almost $300,000.
Oh, terrific. Okay, thank you, Mariana.
You're welcome.
So team, that's an extra $300,000 that will will be recorded by the end of this fiscal year, 6/30/2020. That looks really great. Thank you. I didn't have, I'm sorry?
Not to interrupt, Kevin Siri was texting me saying he was trying to get into the room. I don't know if he's in the waiting room or if he's not. He can't get into the Zoom call again, he said.
Oh, he's not in the waiting room.
Okay, I'll send him the link again to see if he can try it that way.
Okay, thank you. I think there was, while Kevin Siri was talking, there were some issues with connectivity before we lost him, so not really sure what's going on. But does anybody else have any questions for Anna with regard to the finances? If not, I would like to move on to new business, and the very first item is going into executive session. So I will just keep the Board of Finance members, Attorney Myers, Jeff Newton, and Mariana Stevens in the executive session and put everybody else in the waiting room. When Kevin signs back on, we can circle back to him again, because I think he had a few more things to say. But before we head into executive session, which is agenda item 4A under new business, I would need a motion to enter executive session from one of our members.
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
Thank you, Ann Chichello, and the time is now 7:19. Is there a second?
I'll second.
In the event, you have to specify, excuse me, you have to specify who you're inviting. I know you mentioned it, so I'll just put them as part of the motion. You're,
Right, I mentioned, do you need me to say which Board of Finance members?
No.
Because we are all present, so we were.
You're all part of the executive session, but you are also inviting Attorney Myers, Jeff Newton, and Mariana Stevens to attend with you. So I'll just include it as part of the motion, but that I just want to make sure you have it in there.
Okay, all right, yes, I said it, but if you can include that in the motion that Ann made, that would be terrific.
Thanks.
Thanks for keeping us honest, Karen. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, this is just going to take me a few minutes to send people to the waiting room. When we are done with the executive session, I will call you back one by one to resume our meeting. So let's see. A lot of people on the call tonight. Just bear with me. So, okay, so we have remaining Mariana, Jeff, Ann Santoro, Ann Chichello, Shel Myers, Rich Steele, Peter, John, and Camille. So that's it. 9 participants. At this time, I will now pause the recording. So there will be no video and no audio for this portion of the meeting.
Camille, Kevin Siri might be in the waiting room. He was texting me that he was back on. So just so you know.
Yeah, I'm back here.
Oh, there you are, Kevin. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Well, if I just remembered, if all else fails, hit reset, and that's what I did, and it came back. So anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. Karen Zmitrik, I don't know if this is necessary, but I believe Peter made a motion to exit executive session, and Ann Chichello seconded that, and the time's now 7:41, where we are going to resume our regularly scheduled meeting. Okay, Karen?
Yes, it usually goes that way, and it's with no action taken in executive session, so that's okay. We're all set. Thank you.
So before we move on to new business, agenda item B, special appropriation for a bond resolution, I just want to give Kevin Siri the opportunity to complete his report since we lost him earlier in the call.
I think it was me losing you. Yeah, so thank you, Camille. Okay, I was finishing up on the gas line, and when the paving needs to be redone after this too, here again, that's a state cost. It won't be anything the town will have to absorb it all. Continuing with Public Works, if you've noticed down by Oswegatchie Hills Road and Route 161, they're doing some work down there. There'll be one exit coming out there. They're tying an access road from Vetsfield into Oswegatchie Hill Road. So there'll only be one area where you'll be able to come out now, because we've all been there where there's two cars trying to get out. So that should be done around mid-August. Bill Scherer cautioned won't be any grass until September because you can't plant grass in August. So, but they're hoping to be done in mid-August with that. Moving on to staying with that too, Niantic Center Fire Department just had their lot repaved, and Flanders should be starting within the next few weeks, and that's being done with unused LoCIP money from the previous year. Both were in need of being done, so that is being attended to. Moving on to well 1A and 6, even though that's water and sewer, obviously everybody's concerned about that. That's ahead of schedule because of obviously with the schools not being in session. They've done a lot of work down there, and that'll be completed on time and on budget, and they're hoping for a March completion of that. They're getting all the work done now that would impact the schools and the fields at all, so that's done. Parks and Rec would be an area of concern too. Right now, they're about $30,000 under where they would normally be at this time of the season. This doesn't take into consideration just from July 1st or to June 30th. This is basically if you started when they sell. And if you look at the number of non-resident season passes they usually sell, that's about the 30,000 right there. Dave has cut back on the hours for lifeguards. They used to work 9 to 5, now 10 to 5. He's making very clear if it's a very quiet day to send people home. We are selling some minimum amount of non-resident day passes, 10 at McCook's, 10 at Hole in the Wall, and 15 at Cheney. Most of the days those are selling out, but today, because the weather didn't break till late, they only sell about 5 or 6. They've cut the capacity of the parking lots by 25%, so they're keeping it about 75% of parking capacity. Dave said he's had very few problems at the beaches. People are respecting distances. They've obviously making sure the bathrooms are cleaned constantly. So, but no real major problems there at all. The basketball hoops are back up at Rybrook. They put those up Monday. Miracle League Field is done. If you get a chance, take a walk behind Flanders. It looks great. And I think that's about it. And one last thing, we've had 2 police retirements. Matt Rowland retired on June 1st. Terry Safiati, who was already a police officer in town when I got hired as a town cop back in '86, just retired. They have interviewed and certified candidates, and they'll be sending a couple people to the police commission meeting on the 23rd of this month. So let's hope we have a couple hirees to replace the retirees and that vacancy that just opened up July 1st. That pretty much covers it. And any questions you have, I'll see if I can answer them. If not, I'll get back to you with the answers.
Any questions for the Deputy First Selectman? Well, I'll ask a question, Kevin, just because
Sure.
I always feel like I have to ask one. I was following some social media, and I think there was a pretty disgruntled resident of Waterford that bought an out-of-town beach pass, and she was denied access to the playground because the parking lot was full. Is that something that has been discussed by Parks and Rec? Do you know?
I don't know if it has or not. If what I'll do is I'll touch base with Dave Putnam tomorrow and see if we can get an answer to that. I have not heard of that, but that's a good question if they're not going to access the beach and just want to use the playground. But let me see if I can get an answer and I'll get back to you tomorrow on that.
You don't have to get back to me anytime soon. I just wanted you to make sure that you guys were aware of that. Maybe that's something that needs to be considered by the Parks and Rec Commission, because I think if you're buying an out-of-town pass, which is pretty expensive, and there's nobody on the park on the upper level, you know,
Yeah,
how do you
there-
distinguish between beach access and park access if it's the same lot?
Yeah, there is some guidance by the playground saying no more than 10 people per apparatus and so forth like that. But let me look into that a little more, and you know, and I'll make sure it's available so at your next meeting you'll have that information.
Okay, Kevin, great,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention too.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing no and hearing no questions, I think we can move on to new business agenda item B, which is a special appropriation bond resolution for the Flanders Fire Department fire apparatus for $635,000. In our packets, there we had the rather lengthy resolution. And tonight on the call, I believe we have Chief Ricks. Yes, there he is, who can walk us through this appropriation request.
Okay, so like we had many discussions during the budget season when the Board of Finance set the dollar amount for $650,000 towards replacing our engine. We went out to bid, and I'm coming back to you with the lowest bid that we received. If I hit my share screen, hopefully I can get the PowerPoint up. Is it there?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Okay. So currently our engine one is out of service. It was made in 1994. It's 26 years old. NFPA states that fire engines should roughly run only around 20 years. Currently, that one has a 1,500 gallon per minute pump. It carries 1,000 gallons of water. It needs to have the fuel tank replaced. It has a crack in it. Anytime it rains or the water overflows, the water gets in the fuel and adds us more of a problem with having water run through the fuel in the motor. It also has numerous radiator and coolant leaks, too many that they couldn't pressure check, and the radiator has to be replaced, which is a custom built radiator. They can't just order it from a factory somewhere. And it has run into some other electrical problems that I didn't even spend any money into looking into, with the other $26,000 of potential repairs for what's already there. Just a copy of the repair quote I got for the fuel tank and the other repairs for the coolant system. It was roughly just over $25,000. Right now we have a loaner from New England Fire Equipment who does all of our routine maintenance. It's a 2007 1,500 gallon minute pump, 750 gallons of water, which is less than what we normally carry. We got that under a lease, basically a $100 a month rental fee. Normally they charge $7,500, but because we do contract all of our work through them, they cut us a deal. And should we purchase through them, which they did come out being as the lowest bid, they'd waive all the rental fees that we've accrued. The proposed what we're replacing, we're looking to buy a 2021 Spartan fire engine, 1,500 gallon per minute pump, 1,250 gallons of water, which is identical to the other fire engine that we have. There's no bells and whistles. It's the bare minimum that we need to safely operate. Like I said, it's identical to the other one, so it'll keep training wear and tear to a minimum as they will both operate almost exactly alike. Just a drawing basically of what we're looking for. Like I said, it's almost identical to what we have now. Just a quick thing, the Flanders Fire District runs from the Montville border all the way down to Society Road, and then west along I-95 to the old Lyme border, and then up toward the Lyme-Montville border again. While the centralized portions of our district do have fire hydrants, we have roughly 20 square miles that do not. So while we're fortunate enough to have the loaner with 750 gallons, the 1,250 gallons of water is much needed. We do have mutual aid agreements with other towns for their tankers in the event of a fire in those areas. However, that water comes a lot later than if we had it up front. Just a quick run over the budget process this year. Back in November of 19, we estimated a replacement cost of $800,000, not knowing what the taxes and tariffs were going to be due to the economy. In February of this year, after further investigation, we lowered it to $700,000. And then in May, we got an estimated cost of $634,000. And then during the Board of Finance, you guys approved the total amount of $650 in the 2021 budget to be bonded. After posting the open bid process, we received a low bid of $646,800 from New England Fire Equipment, and attached to their bid was a trade-in value of $15,000 for our current out-of-service fire engine. After the bid amount, trade-in value, and adjustment of bonding, we are requesting $635,000. And figure out how to stop sharing this now.
Okay, Chief, thanks for walking through that presentation.
Yeah,
Do
if you
any
can
of-
figure out how to close that window, because I can't.
Let's see.
Oh, I figured it out. There you go.
Okay. Do any of our Board of Finance members have any questions for Chief Ricks? Yes, Ann Chicallo.
I was wondering, how long have you been renting the truck?
I want to say it's 7 or 8 months now.
7 or 8 months. Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief?
That was a good presentation.
Thank you.
Nice. Yes, a nice summary of, what we just so recently talked about, as you referenced, Chief, at the budget season. It's nice to get that $15,000 for a trade-in also. So with that, if there's no further questions, I will make a motion. I did speak with Anna Johnson earlier this morning, and she advised me that I did not have to read out loud the entire resolution, but there were a few sections that I did have to read for the record. So I'll go ahead and make the motion and then ask for a second. Okay. So with that, we are resolving to make an appropriation in the amount of $635,000 for the acquisition of a fire pumper and authorizing the issuance of $635,000 in bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Section 3 of this resolution states, pursuant to Executive Order 7S, as in Sam, Section 7, adoption of this resolution to finance the project is necessary to permit the orderly operation of the town, and there is a need to act immediately and during the duration of the public health and civil preparedness emergency declared by the governor in order to avoid endangering public health and welfare, prevent significant financial loss, or is otherwise necessary for the protection of persons and property within the town. So again, we are waiving the requirement to read the resolution in its entirety because the supporting documentation and the resolution has been available in the town clerk's office for public review. So that is the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Rich Steele. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain. Motion carries 600. Thank you, Chief Ricks.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. With that, the next agenda item is the Board of Education Fund Balance Commitment for the Board of Ed Special Ed in the amount of $47,008.95. So for those people that weren't involved with the executive session. We discussed this at length. And with that, if there is no further discussion from our Board of Finance members, I would entertain a motion to approve this fund balance commitment.
I'll move to commit $47,008.95 remaining from the Board of Education 2019-2020 budget to fund balance account 01-300-01001, parentheses, fund balance assigned, specifically for the payment of the judgment in a pending litigation matter once it is finalized and we are ordered to issue payment by the court.
Thank you, Ann Santoro. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ann Chikello. Any further discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 600. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Or feel free to hang out if you want. Okay, moving on to agenda item D. This is a carryover of funds for the police canine, $4,250. We do have the police chief on the call, I think. Yep, there he is. So would you like to speak to us about
So
that?
if you recall, earlier in the year, I came for an appropriation to replace one of our canines. If you recall, back in the fall, we lost both canines. One passed away. The other one was a medical retirement early. So we've been operating without any canines. We asked for the appropriation. Unfortunately, that was just prior to COVID happening. Because of COVID, we've been unable to obtain any training. So I'm looking to carry that over. Hopefully we can get a training in the fall and move forward with the canine program. So we're looking to do one canine now, and then the year after will be an additional canine added to the force.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the chief? Any questions from our Board of Finance members? Seeing no hands and hearing no one, I'll call for a motion. I'll make a motion. I'm sorry, was that Peter?
Yeah, I can do it if you want.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so move to approve the carryover of $4,250 from police K-9 account 01-70-725-720-501 from the 2019-2020 fiscal year to the year 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Thank you, Peter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from John Birmingham. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries 600. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving right along to agenda item under new business, letter E. This is a special appropriation for the 2021 revaluation in the amount of $272,400. Again, this was recently approved by our board in the CIP plan. Anna, will you be giving us a brief overview of that again? And for the people on the call that might not be familiar with this?
Well, our assessor, Diane Vitigliano, is present, and I think she would do it more justice than I would.
Yes, I'm sorry, Diane. I didn't see your smiling little face there on the camera there.
Good evening. Yes, so in an attempt to reduce the overall costs of a full physical revaluation, we joined forces with the town of Waterford, and the Waterford assessor, Paige, and myself have worked on a collaboration. We've been working on it since February, and we arrived at a plan that we feel would both capture the information necessary to reach the OPM guidelines, be in compliance with their guidelines as well as the state statutes. Our hybrid plan is 40% inspections, physical inspections, combined with a data mailer, a townwide data mailer program. And we felt that this was really the best program that we could come up with, and we felt it would save significant money in the revaluation. So we went out to bid, we received 3 proposals, and they're all summarized and analyzed in the attachments that you were provided in tonight's package. We both would like to recommend Vision Government Solutions as the preferred vendor in this. They tailored their proposal to our specific requests. And we feel that their team has the most experience in our unique waterfront area. They also have the most experience with Vision 8 software. The CAMA software that we use for our valuation is a new software product, and they're the creators of it and are most familiar with it. We asked in the RFP, we did ask for a couple of different bid options, and one was for the full physical with photos. And by choosing the hybrid plan with 40% inspections combined with the data mailers and the images, it's a savings of $104,300 from what a full inspection, full physical revaluation would be. And do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for the tax assessor this evening?
Yeah, I do, if I may. I was just wondering if you had done this before, where you only did 40% of the physical inspections and did the surveys, and whether you got a good response to your surveys that you send out?
Yes, the town of East Lyme has not done that before. The data mailers were, actually the data mailers were included in the last full physical revaluation. The last full physical revaluation was in 2011. It's a more common practice to use the data mailer information. And in our program, in our plan, what we decided was anybody that did not return a data mailer, we would be included in that 40% inspection. Or anybody who returned a data mailer that had a significant change or a change that would impact value would be among that 40%, in addition to open building permits and any sales. So we feel that by doing that, it's very successful. It kind of covers our basis for any of the data mailers that we feel didn't return a good response.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the Board of Finance? So I have a question for you, Anna Johnson.
Yes.
So I am a little bit confused. I don't have in front of me the total amount of money we've been putting in the CIP plan over the past couple of years, but I thought it was upwards of like $500,000.
So we currently have a balance in the account of $329,701, and that is before we do the operating transfer into CNRE from the general fund. If you remember correctly, we budgeted $55,000. So,
Right.
we would have a total of $394,201 available for this appropriation request.
So what happens with the excess funds?
So the excess funds will remain in the CNRE fund, allocated for a future revaluation. So when we look to the next revaluation project that we have to do, which would be a statistical one, we'll look at when that's due and what we estimate the cost to be. And then from there, we would look at what we would need to fund it to have sufficient funds at that point in time. So this will give us a rather, a good start towards that process.
Right, so if I'm adding the numbers correctly, then we would have about $122,000 left in the CNRE account to go towards the next
That's correct, yes.
reval, and that would be 5 years from now. And Diane, what would you estimate that reval to cost in total?
I would think that it would be similar to what we just spent for the 2016 revaluation. And I believe that was around 138,000.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So we're well on our way to being there. So 138 is, 150 maybe is what we would need another 5 years from now. We're going to keep 122 in the CNRE account towards that. So that puts us in a really good financial position for this particular expense that we are mandated to do 5 years from now. And I just want to make sure that this isn't lost on anybody that are you saying by regionalizing and teaming up with Waterford that we were able to save significantly off the cost of a full reval?
We were able to save some money by teaming up with Waterford. The teaming up with Waterford, the reval companies are going to try and bid per parcel the lowest that they can. The big savings was the plan that we came up with the 40% full inspection, as opposed to them trying to get out into every single property. And
Right.
we feel that in today's day and age, I like to count virtual inspections, which if somebody has a house listed for sale on the internet, there's full videos. I mean, you get to see everything on the house. It's equal to a physical inspection without measurements.
Mhm.
So I think that knowing that we have a very diligent program, both Waterford and East Lyme, in keeping up on always monitoring those realtor.coms, and we both have a very good building permit program where we go out and we do the work associated with the building permits. So we're really getting exposed to the data in our fields, and we felt confident in our abilities to continue doing that, and therefore in feeling confident in our database, we are able to reduce that number of inspections.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for either Anna Johnson or Diane, the tax assessor? Seeing no hands and hearing no voices, would somebody like to make the motion for this appropriation? I have it in front of me, so I'll make it. I move to approve a special appropriation in the amount of $272,400 in CNRE account 32-01-102-500-001 revaluation project for the 2021 revaluation. This resolution is passed under the guidance of Executive Order 7S with no town meeting and being less than 1% of the current budget. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann Santoro, for seconding. There's no further discussion.
Just a comment that like the collaboration with Waterford, and I support that kind of action. And I think even if we don't save a lot of money now, I think in the future we'll see savings with those kinds of collaborations. And I support that.
Thank you. We definitely see a savings. I mean, already the ad that went in the paper, was split in half. And we do a lot of collaboration with a lot of our required advertising that we have to do. And it was a very enjoyable experience, I have to say. I really enjoyed working with Paige, and we both brought different experience to the table. And we felt that the collaboration works well.
Good.
So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, so the motion is on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries 600. Thank you, Diane. Okay. With that, we'll move on to our last item under new business this evening. It's a carryover for the retirement liability account balance of $93,355. Anna.
Okay, I can speak to that. So, I mean, we've discussed before that we have an aging workforce, and with it, you know, the last few years we've been seeing an uptick in retirements. When Mr. Siri gave his report earlier, he mentioned 2 police officers that retired within the last month of the fiscal year. They, you know, required us, they had certain leave time accrued on the books. And so when people retire, we need to pay them off on that. And the real challenge is it would be great if every year when we were putting the budget together, anyone that planned to retire would give us notice and we would be able to budget accurately the budget, but it doesn't happen that way. We started, I believe, in the 17-18 budget, and so it's been our practice that whatever we have remaining in the prior year, we carry it over into the new fiscal year, you know, to help, you know, be able to fund it. I mean, our 6/30/19 accrued liability was over $1.1 million. So as you can see, even though we'll have a little over $200,000 available, it's you know, a small portion of the total amount of the unfunded liability.
Any questions for the finance director? Any questions from the Board of Finance members to the finance director? Okay, so yes, Ann Chiquella.
I was going to say, Anna, do you have, like, can you ever forecast, you know, by looking at people's ages and things like that, who do you think might retire? Is there any way that you know, just by looking back through the years, or it's not possible to do that? Like historically.
I wish I could. I really do. I mean, we have several employees that are over retirement age that are, you know, choosing to continue to work.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Ann Santoro.
Yeah, sure. I'll move to approve the carryover of the remaining balance of $93,355 in account 0101114100-128, parentheses, retirement liability, from the 2019-20 budget to the 2020/21 budget, fiscal year.
Thanks, Ann Santoro. Is there a second? Thanks, John. Saw John's hand. Okay, there's no further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries 0-0. Okay. That concludes the new business for this evening. With that, we'll move on to any old business that we had. Do any Board of Finance members have any comments with regard to old business? I know Rich Steele keeps a log for us of open items. I don't know if there's anything there we need to discuss.
No, I don't have anything new for that.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, this isn't so much old business because it wasn't an agenda item per se, but I had raised it at a last meeting or so about as we're going forward with either reimbursements or from FEMA or other COVID-related CARES Act money, that at some point as a board, I guess we could make a decision about how, when, and where we should have an accounting. You know, when would that be when would it be appropriate, and what would it consist of? Because, you know, there's a lot of pieces out there, and it's good, you know, to have a sense of what we're getting, when we're getting it, and what it's used for. You know, because last meeting, for example, Mr. Nickerson had said that, you know, there's a possibility of $6 million more, and then $3 million more after that. So, I mean, if that does come to pass, obviously those are significant amounts. So at some point we can think about that. And then I guess my only other issue I had was, which was old business, because it might have been, have we gone out to bid for our auditor, and is that happening? So that was it.
So yes, I do have an RFP. I just haven't gotten it out, you know, yet. I will get that done by the end of the week, with looking at having a due date by the end of the month, so that we can convene probably the first week in August to have a review of any proposals we receive, so that at the August meeting, the board would be able to make, you know, an appointment.
Good. Sounds good.
Just a friendly reminder that our audit subcommittee consists of Anna Johnson, Rich Steele, and myself. And there is another opening on that if somebody would like to join us. If not, no problem.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate for us to also include Mariana Stevens.
Mariana, yeah, very good.
Definitely.
So I did have one follow-up question. It was regarding a conversation that we had at our last meeting regarding the town charter. So the question came up when we were trying to appropriate or approve up to $170,000 for the police, not the communication. What was it? The radios,
I think it was basically their reporting system for the cars, sort of a CAD
the
system.
reporting system.
Yes.
Right. And they thought that they would have closer to, you know, a $9,000 addition to that. So I had suggested that we just appropriate. The Board of Selectmen had already approved an appropriation of $170,000, and I thought, well, if we know that the amount is going to be at least $9,000 more, why don't we just appropriate $180,000? And then there was the feeling, or the sentiment, that we could not increase the appropriation. The Board of Finance could not increase the appropriation over and above what the Board of Selectmen. And I disagreed with that. I thought that we could, because we had set precedent by doing that with various budget items in the past. So I think I asked Ann Santoro and Ann Chicello, our attorneys on the team, if they would take a look at the town charter. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to do that yet, to weigh in on that. If not, that's fine. But I just don't want to lose sight of this, because I think it might be important for future appropriations.
I have not looked at it, but I will. It totally fell off my radar.
Okay.
if I will look at the town charter and see if I see anything.
Okay.
Camille, if I can interrupt, would we like to have town council take a look at this as well? Because obviously it would probably come down to them anyway. I could talk to Mark and see if we could ask Ed O'Connell to take a look at it from their aspect too.
Okay, so in the town charter, Kevin, it specifically says that during town meetings, that the amount of the budget cannot be increased at a
Right,
town
only
meeting.
reduced, only reduced.
Only reduced. But this is different. This deals with an appropriation for a specific, you know, project or expense or whatever. And to me, it's similar. It's similar to a budget item during the budget season. If you come to us and say, hey, we need $500 worth, you know, of postage for the first selectman, and we say, we don't think that's enough. Here's 600. We have the right to do that. We have the right to increase the budget. We've done it before. So the question then, if you want to go back to the attorney and get his counsel on this, can we increase, can the Board of Finance increase an appropriation above and beyond what the Board of Selectmen has approved if we have the documentation to support that they are going, whoever's making the appropriation request needs more?
Okay.
All right, thank you. I don't know, Ann Santoro, if you had anything to add?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like the idea of having a town council give an opinion, you know, because you need to take things in its thing, you know, question like this in its entirety, looking at different parts of the charter, maybe state statutes, maybe some case law, maybe even a governor's directive, you know, could impact here. But from a sort of plain reading of the provisions in question, for me, it seemed as though, just a simple reading, and this is non-legal, that I don't think the charter contemplates that, you know, the Board of Finance increasing special appropriations. So, because it seems to more expressly give that authority to Board of Selectmen to increase, decrease, et cetera, and use that those express words. So, and you'll see that repeated too, not just for Board of Selectmen authority under special appropriations, but you see it as well in the budget section of the charter. And the wording is much more limited for Board of Finance. So that would be a summary. I can get more in the weeds, but I won't, because if we do ask counsel, that's the most appropriate thing to do. But for me, I felt as though the charter had spoken with respect to that authority for Board of Selectmen and not so much Board of Finance. But we'll see. That's a good question to have answered.
Okay. All right, thanks, Ann Santoro.
Sure.
Any other items in old business that we need to discuss? Okay, hearing no one and seeing nobody's hand, we will move on to public discussion. There are a few members that are dialed into this meeting. If there's anybody that would like to address the Board of Finance, can you please raise your hand or unmute yourself and speak? Any comments from anybody listening in on this meeting? I see Raymond Connor, you unmuted yourself. Would you like to address the Board of Finance this evening?
Yeah, I was just wondering about the public safety building.
Oh, okay. Generally, this isn't a back and forth. This is just, you know, an opportunity to air your concerns to the Board of Finance. But I will say that that public safety building presentation and possible action on the $2.2 million appropriation is scheduled for Monday, July 20th.
Oh, okay.
And it will be a special meeting just to address the public safety building.
Oh. Yeah, I have a couple
you have
of
comments
concerns.
for us?
Yeah, any additional costs due to the COVID-19, with facility disinfecting, employee testing. I think that may, we're going to have a lot of different employees in there for the different trades. And I just wondered if there's going to be any guidelines as to what procedures would be needed. And I'm sure there will be costs that aren't in the appropriation right now.
Okay, I do believe that Paul Daigle is on the call. I am sure that he has listened to your comment and concern, and hopefully Paul Daigle will perhaps address your concern when we meet on July 20th.
Fine. I have one more.
Yes.
There's a line item of for IT and communications of $500,000, and I've never seen any documentation as to how that was arrived at. If there's any bids received, any scope of work, etc. So that should be addressed at the meeting also.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Ray, before you go, this is Raymond O'Connor that was speaking to the Board of Finance. And can you just, you are a member of the Town Building Committee, correct?
Correct.
Yes, so you're speaking as a private citizen and on behalf of the Town Building Committee.
There's a rumor that the Town Building Committee might get involved in this project.
Okay, all right, thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, anybody else from the public like to address the Board of Finance this evening? Okay. Hearing no one, we'll move on to the board comments. Would any Board of Finance members like to address each other or members in the audience this evening? Any comments from the board? Yes, Rich Steele.
Yes, I'd like to echo Peter's comments after Chief Rix's presentation. We had learned quite a bit during the budget process, but I thought it was a very nice presentation, and it's very gratifying to see members of different departments looking to save us a lot of money. And so getting the reimbursement for the rental in the purchase of the pumper truck is greatly appreciated.
Very good. Thank you, Rich.
I had a comment.
Yes, Peter.
I wanted to just, I was going to use the word echo, but Rich already took that word from me. Comments, Camille, that you made at the beginning of the meeting about the financial state of the town and what the final, what the almost final numbers look like. I thought they were pretty impressive and pretty solid, and that gave me a good feeling reading that and confidence moving forward, given all the challenges that we've had this year with the town and all the uncertainties that we still have ahead of us. I was pleased with the numbers.
Very good. Thank you, Peter. Anybody else this evening?
I do.
Yes, John.
Okay. I ask this respectfully. Why was the presentation for the public safety building moved to the 20th? Because it's kind of close to the referendum. It could be within a week and a half of the referendum.
I will explain exactly why the PSB presentation was moved, John.
Okay.
I felt that it was important enough to have the Public Safety Building Vision Committee present their final project and recommendations to us, separate and distinct from any other regular business that we conduct. I wanted that meeting on a separate date completely from any other agenda items. So the choice was to either hold our regularly scheduled meeting tonight with the regular business that we had at hand and call a special meeting just to deal with the public safety building, or listen to the public safety building presentation this evening and move these regular agenda items or regular business to the August meeting. But I spoke with Anna and we determined that there were things on agenda items on tonight's agenda that had to be addressed tonight and could not wait till the August meeting. And so that is why I suggested July 20th to hold a special meeting to listen to a special presentation of the PSB. Now, you might be thinking that the referendum is going to be held on the 23rd. It will not. So that has been moved as well. So we've been in contact with the registrars, and they are planning a referendum to be held on July 30th, which gives them time to plan after, and only if the Board of Finance approves the special appropriation request of 2.2 million for the public safety building. Only if that gets approved on the 20th will we have a referendum on July 30th. So I hope that answers your question.
My only concern was not knowing that you would talk to the registrars, or Anna had, that it was going to be pushed forward to the 30th. Assuming that we'll have a referendum, that if it was around the 23rd or in that neighborhood, that the information that came out of that presentation wouldn't get to enough people in the town for them to make a decision on. So that was only my concern, but now knowing that it's going to be hopefully on the 30th, and hopefully a lot of people will be able to digest what they hear or read.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
And with the I'll just follow up with the referendum on the 30th. That still leaves plenty of time, if it were to be approved at referendum, for the selectmen to go back and, you know, I guess, secure the services of Noble Contracting.
Yeah, Camille, we have to actually meet after you would, if you did vote to move it forward, we'd have to have a meeting the next day to set that date. And it has to be at least 7, no more than 14 days. So, John, we'd have at least 7 days in which people would have a chance. But we almost always give that 10-day time frame is usually what we almost always do, if not a little bit more.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any other questions or board comments? All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, Ann Chiquello. Is there a second? Thanks, Rich Steele. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Motion carries 600. Thanks and good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
8:30, hour and a half, good.